Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Golf Adjacent with Canon Claycomb. I'm your host Christian Sykes, joined as always with Canon Claycomb. A lot to talk about this week in the world of golf. This episode's going to be just kind of like a recap on the Ryder Cup. Obviously, a lot of hot button topics go along with that. Canon, you were at the Ryder Cup on Friday. You flew in. Just talk about the opening day experience for you as a person being in the crowd and obviously like Donald Trump was there. Just kind of the environment that was day one before obviously things kind of fell apart for the United States.
Yeah, I mean, good to be back, first of all. And then yeah, the Ryder Cup was crazy. I mean, it was kind of what it was advertised to be. At least from like a build out and like people showing up perspective. I mean, there was a lot of people there. The build out was pretty impressive. The golf course was fantastic. It looked, really good. They got a lot of rain the night before, I think, the final practice round, and the day of the final practice round. So it looked like the course held water well. We'll get into like a lot more Ryder Cup stuff here soon, but just from like a being there perspective, it was kind of one of those events where it felt like I'll remember, being here for a long time. That kind of big game atmosphere type thing.
Yeah, and before we even get into like the environment itself, obviously you had a couple tweets about the traffic and some of the transportation stuff. Obviously, being in Long Island on a Friday morning, it's a little tough. And
Yeah.
um, you hope, I guess, that when they're going, I forget where they're going in 27, but maybe that there's a little better infrastructure in place as far as getting people
Yeah.
where they need to be.
Yeah, and like I mean, I did have a couple of tweets about that where I was on the bus and then we got off the bus to walk to the front gate. But it really like it wasn't a bad setup. So I don't want to like dog on the PGA and like the city of wherever it was, Bethpage. It might be Bethpage, I don't know. But um like the day we went, we got on the bus at 7:10 and you have to go out and take a right from the train station to get to Bethpage, and right there was a high school. So like it was kind of on us a little bit not to think like, hey, it's Friday morning, people are going to be going to work, going to school. But like same thing, people are on the bus, they're giddy, they're watching Bryson on their phone, like as we're trying to get to the golf course. So it was kind of just this like panic where I think if we stayed in the bus and like didn't get off and walk to the front gate and do the whole thing, we would have gotten there at like basically the same time and not have walked a mile and a quarter. So I don't really think the setup was bad. I think like we just got there at kind of the perfect time to meet other people going to work and school. And like that's what I really didn't want with my tweet blowing up was like, oh, this is the worst setup ever. Because I don't really think it was. The ride share and stuff was a little chaotic, but I mean, there's just so many people in one place. Like, where are you supposed to go? Because it's not like you're at the Mets game and there's a parking lot that you can park in. Like, people were parking in people's houses that were like had signs up in the yards, and then like you either go to the train station or you Uber or you have a VIP pass and you can park your car up there. Like, there's just not that many places to go. So that was a chaotic start to the day. We missed the morning tee times, but we ended up just staying in the grandstands on one. There was a big TV off to the right, so we kind of just sat in the grandstands and watched and waited for them to tee off again. But yeah, chaotic start to the day, and that was kind of the theme for the first 2 days.
And for anyone that's not been to Bethpage, Cannon, you and I both have been. I didn't play black, but I did play one of the courses there. You did the same. The parking is there's no parking. It
No,
is
it's a small
literally
place.
it is very small. And when you're driving in, there's not like when you go to like the Wells Fargo, there's like shopping centers and stuff that you can go and park at, and they like designate that for like parking. For Bethpage, there's nothing there. It's
Yeah,
literally
and
just the golf course.
I think it's Farmingdale is the city, which was where the train station was. So like even at the train station, right? Like the parking lot at the train station is blocked off because that's where the buses come in and that's where people queue up to get on the bus. So like I really actually like don't know. I know they had public parking. We didn't have a car, so we didn't check it out, but
Yeah.
it's like I mean the state troopers even were like we don't really know like what to do or where to send people, and it was like I mean at one point go you can go look on my Twitter. I posted a picture of it. There was like 1,000 people just walking down like a residential neighborhood, and it's like 8:15 in the morning. Like kids are trying to get on school buses in the yards. Like it was chaos.
Which it's no fault to the PGA. That's just Long Island, right?
Yeah,
And when
and
you
like I think it yeah I think it probably like I don't want to say fault, but like I think they probably had an idea that that was going to happen, like just like you're saying, well, that's New York. Like they probably had that same inclination before they set out buses.
yeah.
So I think they really just wanted to lean into like public transport because it was in New York. And like I do think that was a good idea because there was a lot of people. Like I went into the city on Saturday from Long Island and everyone on the train into Penn Station was coming from the Ryder Cup. So that did make it cool where like people from out of state or even out of the country, they could stay in Manhattan, knock Manhattan off their list, and take the train to Farmingdale every morning on the LIRR. And they were at, Bethpage Black to watch Ryder Cup. So I think they probably anticipated that it would be a little chaotic, but I think it went a little worse than what they were hoping for.
So before we get into the actual play, I want your opinions on how the course played throughout the week because I have mine, but I want yours first and then I'll share mine.
Yeah, so I mean, from everything I saw on Friday in person, it was soft. Bryson hit two really good drives that I watched in person. I think both of them would have gotten onto the green had it not rained on Thursday. I mean, the both of them landed in the fairway like 20, 25 yards short, and any golf course on the PGA Tour, he's getting 25 yards of roll. So I do think it was playing soft, and you saw that on TV as well. Like wherever the ball landed is kind of where it stayed. The big thing I think that they did, and Keegan kind of said this, was they cut down the rough and they kind of took like the bite out of Bethpage too much. Like, I don't think the Americans are ever going to want to have Paris over again, where if you miss the fairway, it's just a hack out back into the fairway. But I do think they want it to be a little longer, where now when Rory hits it in the rough, he has to think about what he wants to do from the rough and vice versa. I mean, like, I think, most of the Americans, they play more golf courses with long rough. And I know everybody on the Ryder Cup now plays on the PGA Tour, but I think, looking at what they did from a strategic like standpoint, it looked like both teams were kind of even off the tee, strokes gained, and then Europe just destroyed us on the greens. So I don't know if like they slowed the greens down at all or if it was just soft and they couldn't get them as firm and fast as they wanted, but I don't know if the American team wanted the greens to be as soft and slow as they wanted or as they were from a setup perspective. And that could be totally off, but everything in America is kind of target golf. And like, I think, there was no penalty for hitting it offline.
Well, you're right about the strokes gained off the tee. It was even. The US was minus 13 on the green, and that was just in putting. I think that I looked at data golf. They were minus 6 in missed putts strokes gained. So overall, throughout the entire week, it was like not minus 19. Um, the weather probably had a factor to play into how soft the greens were. Just because when the ball hit, at least for those first 2 days, it literally stopped. There was no roll. It started rolling a little bit on Saturday or on Sunday. Um, Keegan said that he wanted him a little bit faster, but I think you're right about the rough. I think that when you look at both teams and how they played, anytime that they hit it in the rough, and actually the Europeans hit it in the rough more than the Americans did, which was kind of surprising to me watching it throughout the week. it wasn't a ball that was in a lie that was difficult. It most of the time was sitting up. It, had a nice fluffy lie, and guys were able to get under it, get height on it, and able to control their spin. Which when you do that with soft greens, like it's a recipe for putting a ball within 5 yards of or 5 feet of the hole. And obviously the Europeans putted much better than the Americans did.
Yeah,
Um,
and they definitely putted better, and like I would like to know what that boils down to, or like why that happened, or if it was just chance that that occurred. But I think with the long rough, like I don't think the Americans were wanting to have long rough like just off of the fairway, right? Where I think they wanted to see the longer rough was around the greens. Um, I mean, like every person I watched that missed a green this week seemed like they got it up and down. Like there was no like bad miss anymore. So when you give these guys like a shot that they can pull off, they're going to usually pull it off. There's no like they don't miss golf shots. They're the best players in the world. I mean they do, but like it was almost too easy where it was like in past Ryder Cups, you can win sometimes a hole with par, especially an alternate shot. And I didn't feel like the Europeans, at least from a watching perspective, like from a feeling wise, I didn't feel like I ever watched a European make a bogey in like alternate shot or best ball. And so it was this constant like you have to make birdie to beat these guys, which is a great recipe for the European team. But I think that was probably even more frustrating on the Americans because then at that point, you're not even lucking into a hole. They have you down and they're continuously kicking you in the teeth. Like even when you tie a hole, it feels like you're losing it. And so I think like late into day two, it's like, what do we have to do to beat these guys? And like, where do we start? Because we're so demoralized and so far behind.
Well, and there was times where like a birdie would lose you a hole. Like guys were making
Mhm.
eagles like it was nothing in the second part of the second day and into singles. Like guys were just making eagles from I think JT hold out for an eagle, and then people were just driving it onto the par fives, and especially on the last day like that the I forget what it was, like 13 or 14, that was a par five that they would just put it up 10 feet for an eagle. Then, I mean, you're seeing the same putt over and over again, and they knock it in. And like it got to the point where you're looking at it, and Justin Rose and what was it? Justin Rose and Tommy Fleetwood on the second day were like 13 under through 16 holes.
Yeah.
And you're like, for a match play, you can't beat that.
Yeah, it's
Like
demoralizing. I mean, it's literally the worst feeling in the world.
Like you could play 12 under, you're still losing. Like that's insane, especially for like alt shot. The fact that I think at one point Tommy Fleetwood and Rory were like 10 under through 17 or 16 holes in alt shot, which I've never seen that before, where guys are just going that low in an alt shot format. It was insane to watch, and credit to the Europeans for coming ready to play, and taking advantage of what I think was a very poor setup from a pin point of view, and then as far as like making it more challenging for these guys, from that point of view as well.
Yeah, and like the only other thing I would say is, and this isn't like a critical thing or like complaining about it, but I would like to know the conversations that went on between Bethpage and Keegan, I guess, or whoever does communications for the Ryder Cup team about like what they w really wanted Bethpage to be like. Because I mean, you do have the sign on the front gate that's, extreme caution. This golf course is incredibly hard unless you're and super highly skilled golfer, whatever it says. But then you watched it and you're like, this golf course might be the easiest place I've ever seen. I mean, like you said, all of these scores, you're looking at them and you're going, how are they doing this? And it was just birdie after birdie after birdie after birdie. And so like, I do think, I do think like a harder golf course would have favored the Americans a little bit more. I don't think that's like a big brain take or anything like that, but I do wonder like how much they wanted to dial it back and if they just accidentally dialed it back too far or if the rain just dialed it back, for them on accident.
I think it was both. I think they dialed it back probably a little bit too much, especially I don't think that they expected to get it the amount of rain that they did. I assumed that they wanted the rough to be not super thick, but then the greens be really fast, making that your second sh or your second shot or third shot, whatever it is, have to be accurate. And I think that what ended up happening is the rain, and it just made the green so soft that the guys were like, I mean, I can just, and most of the guys had like wedges or 9 irons into the green. And that's another thing is like, I feel like the advantage that the Americans should have had was like their length off the tee, but it felt like the course was so short that like there was no distinct advantage. Maybe they could have talked about maybe lengthening some of the tee boxes, making it a little bit more difficult. Um,
Yeah, and like I don't know from a like distance perspective what it plays on a scorecard, but I mean it's just so confusing to me because like we've had big tournaments out at Bethpage and like not I mean they've been close to even par. I think what did Brooks win the PGA at in Bethpage like 6 under?
yeah.
Yeah, so like I mean that's a pretty high score for a 72 hole event, at least from PGA perspective. I mean, Valhalla was 19, 20 under. The one in Missouri was super low. So I think the golf course has bite. I just think they took it away. Like I think they just cut everything down too far. And like your point with I think the rain got them, like I don't disagree with that. But if they wanted to cut the rough, why didn't they just cut it Thursday night? Like right before the first round. And like then you know exactly what you want it to be and it's grown for a week. So I that's the and that's not like accusations again. That's something like I would love to ask someone who was involved like that made that decision what was, being talked about in that moment.
What about the lift, clean, and place rule? Do you think that they should have had it on Saturday?
Yeah, see that's another thing. It's like I do as a player, I always want lift clean in place, especially in tournaments like this where it's, one hole could be the difference between winning and losing. And match play, you only get 18 holes. So each hole is pretty important. And there's no two-shot swings or three-shot swings. Like, I don't want to be getting a mud ball on the 17th hole of a match where I've hit the fairway and my player's missed the fairway and now he has the advantage because his ball, rubbed the mud off in the rough. So I don't want to be like, oh, don't play lift clean in place. I think a lot of people beat that drum and like, yeah, it's fine. Like mud balls are part of the game, but also it's a lot more fun to hit a shot and it does like what you want it to do. And like I guarantee there's definitely two sides to that story. Like some people like to see mud balls and the chaos and some people think, really good golf shots should be rewarded. So I don't know.
So let's get into before we get into the fan antics and everything that the hot button topic, let's get into your thoughts about just overall the pairings and just the strategy that went behind both the European team, but more importantly, the American team.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, from an analytics like data standpoint, I don't really know that much. Like I haven't looked into it. It's not my cup of tea, which is why I shouldn't be the Ryder Cup captain right now. But I do think like once you go down in that afternoon session the first day, and what did we did was it a tie 2-2 in the afternoon,
No,
or
we
did
were
they win three
down.
one?
It was like 1.5 to 2.5.
Okay. So like that at that point. I think it was crazy to double down and be like, we're sticking to the plan because the plan obviously didn't work. And I think it would be different if you felt like Europe kind of lucked into a few of those points and like you watched closely and you're like, well, yeah, we lost this match, but it could have kind of gone either way. That those matches like in the afternoon, they were done from the start. I mean, Fleetwood was playing incredible golf. Rory was playing so good. Shane looked fired up. like everyone on that European team looked like they were just ready to win. And so at that point, I think it's time to, maybe flip the switch. And I'm not saying send like Scotty and Bryson out there, but maybe you do reach into your guy who is doing analytics bag and figure out how to like what's the best matchup to beat these guys. And you change the lineup a little bit, like I thought it was kind of crazy to double down. Just for the simple fact that it wasn't working and it was so obviously not working, right? Like anybody who was watching the Ryder Cup on the first day, they were, I think if you asked them, you'd be like, yeah, it looked like we're gonna lose this week. Like there wasn't many positive redeeming like outcomes from the first day at the Ryder Cup. So I did like how he changed the afternoon around a little bit and went like Scotty Bryson, or was it
It was Scotty Bryson.
Scotty Bryson, and then JT Cam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And so I think like, just because that gives the crowd a little bit of energy, like people want to watch Scotty and Bryson play together. And yeah, like I said, I think doubling down after the first day was crazy. But other than that, I just don't know enough analytically to beat up on Captain.
I think my opinion is very similar to yours. The fact that, well, one, in the morning session you don't put out Cam Young, and I know that I apparently in the practice rounds he wasn't the best, but a guy that has played Bethpage is very familiar with it. Has won multiple tournaments there, is a home crowd favorite. Like that one is a question mark for me as to why not put Cam Young Colin instead of Harris
Hmm.
English in Colin, which, if you look at the envelope rule, which we can talk about, obviously the US thought that Harris English was probably their weakest player of the week, because as he was in the envelope. But like why you don't put Cam Young out there? Why are you changing in the afternoon? Xander, Patrick Cantlay win you a point, and then you take that matchup who they play the Zurich together. They play alt shot and they play best ball together every single year. Why are you changing that duo? Like that doesn't make sense to me, right?
Yeah.
And then going into Saturday, why do you put Harris English and Colin Morikawa back out there when I'm pretty sure they lost in like 15 holes? Like, why are you? I personally think Scotty should have been benched at least Saturday morning because it's very clear to me that at least at the current state of Scotty's game right now, he's not very good at the whole team aspect of everything. And maybe it's he doesn't have the partner yet, right? Like maybe he hasn't figured out who's a good partner for him. Maybe it's a pressure thing for him, different things like that. Like maybe you sit Scotty, and I know that that's kind of a hot take for people, but if your players aren't performing, you don't just play them because they're the number one player in the world, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a tough conversation, right? Because like Europe has leaned so heavily on their top players in the last two Ryder Cups, and they've delivered in such big ways. I think like what did they say in Rome? Tommy, Rory, and Shane delivered like 9 or 12 points.
It's 10 and a half
And then
points.
yeah, and then this year, I mean, I would imagine they delivered, around the same amount of points. So it's like I don't think it's like, the best player isn't playing good, don't play him. I do think something has to do with the people they get paired with, because if you look at Tiger's record in the Ryder Cup too, like he wasn't a killer Ryder Cup player, but I mean, he's the person I would want the most to have a putt to win a golf tournament. And I wouldn't imagine that pressure is that much different than a Ryder Cup. Like, it's got to go in at this moment in time. Tiger usually makes it. So I do think there's something to be said about, who Scotty got paired up with. And then even when you pair him with Bryson, like Scotty isn't a like outgoing, like rah rah, look at me type guy. And then you put him with the most like rah rah, look at me person on planet Earth. And like I talked about last week, I like Bryson, but I do think he probably would be a little difficult to play with, especially if you're a guy like Scotty who just goes out and wins all the time and doesn't make any noise about winning. Um, I think it would be tough. And so like I think like what you said is he probably hasn't found his like partner yet. And like JT lost Spieth this year. You know, him and Spieth have always played together, and I think JT just fits into that role a little better because he's able to be anybody's kind of partner and like cheer for them harder than he's cheering for himself. And some people think that's weird and cringe, but whatever, it's fine. He's a great Ryder Cup player, and I love it. So I think, Scotty also like Scotty's so young still. People forget how young Scotty is. And so it's like I hesitate to write him off and be like, what a horrible performance when he probably has five Ryder Cups left in him. I mean, four, I think four would be very realistic. So, um, yeah, I don't know. It was tough. And like I think, like I said, you need your best players to put up points. And America just hasn't done that recently. And I think that's that is the glaring difference between the two teams.
So talking about players putting up points, you look at the American team. What was it? Two Ryder Cups ago when they won. That wasn't a was that Whistling
I think it
Straits?
was Whistling Straits.
And you look at the guys that were on that team: Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth, Brooks Koepka, Patrick Reed, um, guys like that. Like they're not even in the picture anymore
Mhm.
for the US team. And you look at the European team and all of their top guys are their guys, and like they're not changing. For the US team, I tweeted about this, like you have to look at how you're picking teams now, and maybe there's something that there can be adjusted, because when you're going into the Ryder Cup with a month of preparation and saying, I still have to pick the last six people on my team, the European team gets to pick between I forget who's on the bottom of their lineup, but like Matt Wallace and Harry Hill. Like that's who you're picking against, where the Americans are like, okay, well, do we pick Ben Griffin? Do we pick, you know, JJ Spawn? Do we pick Russell Henley auto qualified? But like, do we pick Colin? That's the question that you're asking. And if those picks don't work out, well, you get into a situation where one, they haven't played together. Most of these players haven't played in a Ryder Cup together or played in a Ryder Cup in general. And then two, like it's a very big risk if your six people that you need to play don't play well, because you have to play eight people every single round. So you're
Mhm.
almost guaranteeing losing a match, at least one match every single round, if those guys don't pan out.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I think there's something to be said about like the culture around the Ryder Cup, right? And I'm not saying that the Americans don't care about the Ryder Cup. Like I think that's a silly argument to make, and it's blatantly not true. Like those guys do care about the Ryder Cup and winning the Ryder Cup. I just don't think they care about it at the same level that the Europeans do. And like one thing that you saw this week was, like when Justin Rose made a putt, he was kind of pounding his chest. And like to me, he was saying, like, I got you. Like, I have heart, you have heart. Like, this is for us. It's not like I didn't make that putt for me. And I think too, like when you have these legendary Ryder Cup people, right? Like Graham McDowell, Ian Poulter, Henrik Stenson, like all these guys, and on social media, Twitter, X, like like Graham, he was a great person to follow on X during the Ryder Cup because he was just being like, when I was here at the Ryder Cup this year, this happened, and this is how that like these guys are obviously still tuned in to what Team Europe is doing, and they might not be like the vice captain, but I guarantee you they're texting Luke Donald, and I guarantee, or maybe not Luke Donald, but some of those players being like, "Hey, good luck this week. This happened to me this year. Look out for this." Like, I just think they're more tapped in. Like, I don't think anybody on the Ryder Cup talked to Patrick Reed this week. I
No,
doubt it.
no.
I highly doubt. And I'm not saying they need to bring him on in an official role, but like having someone like that who I'm sorry, like you either hate him or you like him. I'm right in the middle, I guess. But he does have great Ryder Cup experience, and he was a good Ryder Cup player, and he was kind of like, Captain America for a hot minute. So it's like, not only can we not get everybody playing on the same tour and pick from a bigger group, but we're also ostracizing everyone that was a good Ryder Cup player and is left for live, and now there's just no contact. And so we've lost both sides of the coin. Like, we're losing players and we're losing advice and captains and co-captains and coaches.
Yeah, I mean, heck, three of the people, DJ, Patrick Reed, and who's the and Brooks Koepka. All three of those guys are live guys. And they're not, well, one, they're not able to qualify essentially unless they do well in the majors because they're not getting a world golf ranking points. So they're never going to get picked. And then two, they've had good records, but like they're live, so they're not going to be they're like no one's going to talk to them about it. Like
Mhm.
maybe Bryson does, right? But like you look at even the European team, right? John Rahm and Terrell Hatton are both guys that are on live, and when they're playing for the Euros, it's not I'm still in live and I'm still on the PGA tour. It's we're the European team. We're gonna play together. We're gonna be together. Like even Rory and Rom, like Rory, the biggest like negative person about live is like hugging Rom, being like they're still working to win this thing where it doesn't
Mhm.
feel like that for the Americans. It doesn't feel like there's oh, this is Team USA, this is Team Europe. It's oh, these are the players for Team USA and this is Team Europe, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I will say too, like, Henrik was supposed to be the captain of a Ryder Cup team, and he had that pulled away from him because he went to live. So like, I do get that both sides are doing it. I just feel like from our side, we're kind of writing them off forever, whereas like the Europeans are kind of like, hey, we don't really love that you went and did this, but you're a very integral part of the team, so we're gonna like kind of keep you around, and like if you can help, we would love to have you help. And I think that's kind of something that like we have lost. And like not even I don't even think it was on purpose. It's just like with everything that was going on, you create this big, huge rift. And it's like, how do we ever come back from that separation? And I'm not saying that's the reason we lost the Ryder Cup or anything like that, but I do think it's crazy that like you can't you can't like reach out to Bryson or, Brooks or Patrick Reed or like any of those guys, like they were pretty decent. Like, I mean, they played Ryder Cups and they have advice that I'm sure could have, at some point helped Ben Griffin or JJ Spawn or someone that hasn't played a Ryder Cup. So I don't know. The team room's probably fine, but it's a frustrating as an American fan.
Well, and I was talking to people and I was like, do you bring Keegan back? Do you think he did a good job? Maybe it's just a learning experience for him. If you don't bring Keegan, who's the captain? Because I guarantee you, like my pick for the captain, if we were going to be completely honest and not worry about live or PGA, would be Phil Mickelson. That would be my
Yeah.
pick for the Ryder Cup cap. But he's never going to be able to do it because it's PGA of America who now hates Phil because he's the biggest outspoken person against the PGA.
Yeah. Yeah, and like so that's the other thing is the PGA of America and the PGA Tour aren't the same thing. So I don't know what he said about the PGA of America, which he said a lot of stuff in the past 2 weeks. But I do think like so like you were asking about Keegan, and I think Keegan actually not that he did a good job, but I think he was so foxholed. Like the man played in the FedEx Cup playoffs like 4 weeks ago. So he was the captain, yes, but he also is doing like fantastic at golf. His career is still like very much in play. He's playing a lot of golf. Like, I mean, you had Luke Donald telling me that their light was going in the door the wrong way at the hotel, so they bought blackout curtains. While my captain is playing TPC Memphis like 3 weeks before the Ryder Cup. Like, I think it would be so dumb not to bring him back as a captain, just from the simple fact that it obviously means so much to that guy. Like, if there's one thing that like football or basketball, anything can relate to golf is right now in the Ryder Cup, where it seems like there needs to be a culture change in the locker room and how we go about picking. And we had this whole Ryder Cup task force 10 years ago or whatever the fuck it was. Excuse my language, but but like we had this whole thing and then we just it feels like we threw it out the window and we're like start over. We're just gonna stay with the same 15 people that have been rotating in and out of the same roles for the last 10 years. Like I'm not telling you force Keegan to retire, but the second he does, I think you ask him to like come on and serve on some official role for the Ryder Cup American team. Because like the whole thing that he had behind him was I might not be the right person for this. I might pick myself, I might not. But if there's one thing that you as a fan can know about me, it's that I love the United States of America and I love captaining this team and being the captain. And like I think the only way out is with guys like that. I think guys like that are going to bring the culture and the winning attitude and the identity of an American team to win a Ryder Cup.
Yeah, and the only thing that I have issue with Keegan being the captain is he's a player. Like Luke
Mm-hmm.
Donald, they talked about it constantly on the broadcast. I forget who was the European guy that was speaking on the broadcast all the time, but he's like for 2 years, Luke Donald and the team have been meeting weekly. They have been practicing together. They have been preparing for this Ryder Cup because they knew what was going to happen. Whereas I guarantee you the American team is not, I mean, maybe they're going out and playing, golf in the off season together, right? Like obviously those guys do that. They live in Florida. They'll go and play golf together. They'll, you know, they have that type of like friendship or acquaintanceship, but it's not like we are preparing for this event. It
Yeah.
is American golf, and we've talked about how different it is on this podcast, is very much an individual thing. Even at the high school and collegiate level, you play for a team, but you're not playing team golf. You're playing individual golf for a team. And maybe
Yeah.
you can speak on that a little bit more as obviously you've experienced it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, high school golf and college golf are both what you just said. It's individual golf that four scores add up to a team. So like it's always just best ball. And historically we've been pretty decent at best ball because we make a lot of birdies. So um I just think that like a lot of those team events that they play growing up, and this could be totally off the mark, but like Ireland has a team, a junior Ireland team, where they travel around and they play tournaments and like they play a lot of match play in those tournaments. Like, yes, there's stroke play mixed in, but there is a lot of match play. And I'm not saying that's like the difference or anything like that. I think like they're better prepared to play alternate shot. They're better prepared to play best ball. Like, even though that's probably our thing, like they have figured out a way to form a team and a friendship like 8 months before the event, 10 months before the event. And it's like we kind of show up and we like high five each other and like, the single guy takes a picture with the married wives and we post it on Twitter and we're like, look how close we are. Like we're a team. And then we go get beat 3-1 in alternate shot the first morning. And it's like, okay, well, that's kind of deflating. And I like we'll talk about the fans a little later. I think that had something to do with it. But also like I'm not advocating for Keegan to be next year's captain. Like I want Keegan to play until he can't play or feels like he can't play and then he retires and then that's when we go and get him, right? Like we've got to reach back into the Ryder Cup coffers and probably find a winning captain that did some good stuff and be like, hey, please come captain us in Ireland next time. And then hopefully Keegan, is ready to take on that home role again because he does need to get a win. Like, I think putting him back out there in 6 years when it's back in Europe is probably a bad idea because then he's the guy who lost the only Ryder Cup he played in and lost two as a captain. And he probably doesn't want anything to do with it after that at that point. So I think, next year is going to be, or 2 years from now is going to be a big captaincy. And then I it's going to be interesting what they do the next time it's in America. Cause I mean, you can't lose again in America. It just can't happen.
Well, Bryson's going to be the perfect captain whenever he stops playing. You you
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want to
I
you want
mean,
to talk
possibly, right?
You want to talk about a guy that is into the data, into the analytics, and cares about the USA and the USA Ryder Cup team is Bryson. Like, and
Yeah,
I'm not advocating for him to be the captain anytime soon. I just, watching him or maybe even JT. Like, I think JT would be a great captain just because of
yeah,
the pride that they have for in the passion they have for it. But
yeah.
um
And like that is kind of my whole point, right? Like I don't think it's necessarily the person or the resume. Like I think Americans have kind of picked Ryder Cup captains recently off of resume, and like that's very important. Like the resume is very important. But I I feel like someone that cares equally, if not more than what their resume reflects, is better for the entirety of the team. And someone who can take it as a full-time job, right? Like it's not a part-time job. Like Luke Donald bringing blackout shades and his own sheets and linens for his bed at the hotel room was not a part-time job thing. Like he knew what was going down before it happened. And I think it's unfair to put that on Keegan and be like, hey, why didn't we do that? It's like, well, dude, like I was playing for $40 million and the FedEx Cup playoffs like 4 weeks ago. So I'm sorry I didn't make it up to Garden City, Long Island, or wherever it was. Like it's just tough, and like we got to figure that out as a team.
So let's talk a little bit. We talked about the first 2 days. Let's talk about the last day, which I thought going into it that we were going to get stomped in the first 2 days, or maybe not as stomped as bad as we did, but I thought that we were going to pretty handily lose the first 2 days. Maybe we do some stuff in best ball, but I thought that where the American team kind of had an advantage over the European team was in the singles matches, just because I think when you take the not saying the European team is bad in singles, but when you take the team element out of the Ryder Cup and you put it into singles, that's where Americans have been playing their entire lives. Like
Yeah.
that's where everyone grew up playing is those singles matches as a team that equal a point or whatever it is or whatever it may be. And that's
Mhm.
what we saw. Talk about your feelings on the back nine after, JT hold or Cameron Young holds the putt to win it. JT holds the putt to win it. Bryson DeChambeau comes back from 5 down, and you kind of see this momentum. What were you feeling when we saw that when you saw that?
Yeah, for I mean, for a long time in the afternoon, it felt like, the American side could do it. And it was that weird teeter-totting of like at 1 second you're like, okay, they're gonna win this. And then you watch one shot and it's like, well, if this match loses, it's over. And it was like that for 2 hours. Like it was never, it felt like the Americans were like right there, right there, right there. And then something would happen. And it's like, okay, well, now Europe's like about to win. So I should just watch football. And it was weird. And like, I'm not discrediting the Americans' comeback at all, but I bet the Europeans did feel like it was a little bit of garbage time. Like, you know, you're up 17 with 2 minutes left and you scored and you're celebrating, like, whatever, dude. But I mean, it was an encouraging fight. And like we front loaded the lineup for that reason. We had to get points on the board. We sent our best players out and they performed well. And that Bryson half was big. Um, Kind of crazy. He was down 5 through 7 against Matt Fitzpatrick. I didn't get to watch much of that match, but that was a surprising half for me. I thought, Bryson would have an advantage in that match. And JT just delivered like he always does in singles. Cam Young was awesome this week, man. Like that was so much fun to watch. I think it was also good that the back half of our lineup got to play into meaningful like golf towards the end. Sam Burns, I think this is his second Ryder Cup now. He's been on two losing teams, but this time he, got to play for a long time while it mattered. I think that was good experience. JJ in the back, and then yeah, the back half of the lineup. Like they just got to see some meaningful shots, and I think that's gonna, be good for them for a long time. But it just like I don't know, we just got beat so early, and like I think that's partly why the fans got so crazy was like we never had any momentum, and it's like you're just getting your teeth kicked in day after day after day, like hole after hole. And it's like, what can I do as a fan to help my team? And like they're not giving me anything to cheer for. So I'm just gonna tell Rory that he sucks and like throw a drink at him. Like I'm not condoning any of that behavior, but I do understand kind of why it happened. Like it was frustrating to watch as a diehard golf fan. It's like, guys, come on, like do something, give us something to cheer for. And there wasn't much.
Yeah, and I think it's a great segue into the fan stuff and just kind of the off the course antics that happen. Um, I'm with you. Like you you look at the fans like day one, right? And they were very much go Team USA, cheering on the teams, just like booing the Europeans as they play, but like there was not a lot of antics. But as the European lead grew and grew and grew, like as a fan, and like if I was there, and I'm not saying I would say some of the stuff that was being said or, things of that nature, but like if I'm there, I'm thinking, okay, only cheering for the US team is not working. I need to find something or anything I can do to get into these guys' heads. And I think the reason why Rory was such a big target, one, because he's Rory McIlroy and he's, arguably the best European player, but like two, it was getting to him, right? Like
Yeah.
people weren't going after Shane Lowry because Shane Lowry was responding every single time someone would come after him and he would give it right back to the fans. Where like Rory, like you go and watch these videos, you go watch like even on the broadcast, like it was very evident that what was being said to him was affecting him. And so fans are seeing that and they're like, "Oh, but if I continue to do this, it's going to affect him and then maybe we'll win a point." And so it
Yeah.
just stacked on each other.
Yeah,
Um,
and like oh keep going. But like
no,
I
no,
mean
go ahead, go ahead.
it was I mean some of the like and I can't sit here and I've been not a Rory hater, but like I'm not Rory's biggest fan, but I respect him to the nth degree. Like he's one of the greatest players of all time. So I do think he gets a little leeway on that because like everyone is always coming for him from every angle, right? But it's like I don't know, man. Like early on, it wasn't. I was there on Friday. It wasn't like "F you, Rory" or like anything like that. It was like, basic kind of heckling. And then like Rory started playing really good and it started to get a little like more violent and like out of touch. It's like I just really think that it started out not bad and then they were just beating the brakes off of us. And it's like, A, I'm mad that we're losing by this much. B, I've been drinking since 8 a.m. C, Rory's like fist pumping and telling me to F myself. And then like D, it's like I paid so much money to come out here. Like I want to get something from this experience. And that might be an indictment on American fans a little bit, but it's like the product wasn't there to have good fans. Like if America wins by 6 or 7.5, 6 points this week, none of this is a conversation. Like, at least in my opinion, I don't think like there's always going to be a couple bad apples, like especially in golf when it's completely silent right before you hit it and you're asking 80,000 people not to say anything. But like, I really don't think it was like everyone was out there to be like, yeah, say the craziest thing possible. And I did see like in the stands on Friday, some people said some crazy stuff and like people, towards the end of the day, people turned around. They were like, "Hey, dude, like, come on." Like that was a little much. And so like I think they wanted it to not get out of hand, but it just like the product was so poor that they resulted to violence and like horrible language and throwing drinks at Rory's wife. And it's like there's no place for that. And it wasn't everybody. Most of the people I met were really nice and just rooting for America. But um, it's sad that like we have to have this conversation again. Like I don't know. I'm kind
I
of
will
tired of it, man. Like
I will say the Rory throwing things at his wife that actually didn't happen. What happened was a guy like
yeah,
had a beer in his face and he like did this because it was in his face and like she just happened. Like I went
yeah,
back and watched the video,
I did
but
too, and I saw that. But it's like like that is like that's the moment, right? Where it's like he's been told all these horrible things all day, and then he doesn't know that that cup was
Yeah,
knocked out of someone's hand. Like he thought someone threw it at his wife. So it's like, of course, now we've got this explosion of emotions and like
yeah.
this Twitter firestorm where like nobody's checking anything and people are just claiming that Rory's wife got a drink thrown at her. And it's like, I read so many think pieces over the last 2 days on Twitter that I'm just so sick of it. Like, it's not, I really don't think it's that deep. And you can disagree with me on that take and tell me why I'm wrong, but it's like, I'm just so tired of it, man. Like, we go to a football game and tell me when Bama's losing 21-0 against LSU that Bama fans are not screaming the most obscene, like, gestures and profanity you've ever heard. It's just at that point, there's 100,000 people doing it at the same time. So you can't pick up who's yelling what.
Well, you have Dixieland Delight.
Yeah. And you have LSU singing Suck
Neck.
That Tiger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know what they thought like American fans were. Like, we're not good people in sporting environments. Like, it's just a fact. We mix alcohol and we are playing the most violent sports in the world, and we're expecting people to like sing kumbaya and like high five the Europeans for making putts. Like, it's not going to happen. I'm not saying like go out there and yell obscene profanity at the best players in the world, but like the golf is the only sport in which this is a problem. And we're like acting like massive babies about it, in my opinion. Like, go to a football game, go to a basketball game, go to a
I'm
baseball game.
I'm glad you're saying this because here's my opinion on the fan stuff. The Europeans need to get thicker skin
Yeah,
because
a little bit for sure.
when the Americans go over to Europe, I guarantee you, I saw it in Rome. The stuff that the Europeans are chanting and saying about like, just because they say it in a chant doesn't mean that it's not obscene, right?
Yeah,
Like, just because Americans are just saying it flat out, Europeans are chanting some of the same stuff but like, you don't see Americans complaining about it. They
yeah,
they they deal with it and they move on. Like the Europeans, while they were dominating, were chanting "Ole, ole, ole" and all of these things about Rory, while Americans were putting. You didn't hear
yeah,
the Americans complaining about that. You didn't hear them saying, "I'm not going to putt with these chants" like Rory did, right? Rory specifically said that golf is a game of etiquette, and then in the same breath turns to the crowd and it drops f bombs on them and points to them while he's playing golf, right?
yeah.
It's hypocrisy from his point of view. And then after in their celebration, instead of just celebrating with his team, he's putting the European flag specifically over Bryson DeChambeau's name and celebrating. Like he's
Yeah.
doing just as bad, maybe not just as bad, but he's doing the same
He's
thing that,
inciting. I think he's inciting them, right? Like
yeah,
a little bit. And I'm not saying he's like begging them to like do horrible things, but like there's no like turning down of the temperature, like especially this week at least.
yeah.
And like I think what people are upset with and why you're seeing all these like think pieces on Twitter and like, oh, this is politics because of politics. It's like what the Ryder Cup was this like exhibition where everybody got together and it was this show of like country and sportsmanship, right? And everyone respected the Ryder Cup, everyone respected the players that came before them. And now, like, I don't know if it's because of the media or if it's because how serious Shane and Rory have taken it recently, and some of the comments like about we're gonna, beat them on their home soil and all this stuff. Like, it's kind of become this like it's not an exhibition anymore. It's very serious and it's like very legacy like type thing where it's if you play really good at the Ryder Cup, like your entire legacy changes forever now. And I don't think that like old people in golf are ready to be like, hey, this isn't an exhibition anymore. Like this isn't about sportsmanship anymore. And I'm not saying like that's right or wrong. Like I think it's cool that the Ryder Cup had sportsmanship and integrity for so long. Um, but like we can't act like this isn't serious now. And we can't and like we also can't be like, oh, this is the biggest sporting event in the world happening this weekend. But you also can't yell and you can't say curse words and you can't point at players and you can't like do all this stuff like you could at a football game or a basketball game. And I'm not saying golf is a football game or a basketball game, but the Ryder Cup, I think if they leaned into it just a little bit more, and like now instead of having 80,000 people be quiet, you have 80,000 people constantly be loud, right? So like now the golfers can be like, hey, look, we have crowd noise, you know? But when there's that many people, the crowd noise is basically like silence. And no one can tell who's yelling what. And that might be a crazy take and like I don't know what the like logistics would be on that. But it's like they want us to scream and yell and clap and cheer, but then like they want us to be quiet and like also sportsmanlike and reserved and have integrity and like you I don't know, like you can't have both sides of the coin. Like to your point, I think Rory does have great sportsmanship. Like he's one of the best, guys on tour from what I've heard from other players. Like people really respect him and his opinion and like he seems like he isn't a crazy person. But then, you get him out there and he's like screaming F you to a fan and then sticking it to like 2 feet. I think that's dope. Like,
That's
I think that's
sick.
so cool. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
think that's awesome. And I think like most sports fans, maybe not golf fans, would be like, hey, Rory, I hate you, but that was like the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, now I want to give it back to you a little bit as long as you give it back to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's
But then he goes and cries about the fans
exactly,
directly
yeah, and like
after.
that's what I'm saying. But and I don't think it's just Rory. I think it's like the whole Ryder Cup as a whole. Like every story you read leading up to this week was like, oh, are the fans going to get out of control? Are the fans going to get out of control? But then like you also want us there at 4 in the morning to pack the stands and do chants and scream and like have a flyover and like a very emotional national anthem and like all of these things that are like, hey, this is big game stuff, right? Like this is NFC championship. This is college football playoffs. This is the Ryder Cup. Like, but hey, we also don't want you to do the same thing that you do at all of those other events, even though we're kind of asking you to with the massive grandstands that we've set up and the big crowd forming areas that you can go to and the booze and the food that's free and like all these things, right? And it's like you have to pick one. You can't keep muddying the waters and then cry foul when you like think it's a foul. Like it's like playing with a street basketball player who calls his own fouls all the time. Like, was one of them a foul? Yeah, probably. Was the other one a foul? Probably not. So, like, now I can't believe you on what is a foul and what isn't a foul.
Yeah. I agree. I personally think that what they should do for the Ryder Cup is fans should be able to cheer the entire time.
Yeah.
I like maybe not
And
like
opposing fans should too.
yeah, maybe
Like, if
not
you
like
want to do
sudden
that.
cheers, maybe not like sudden things while people are swinging that could like shock their system, but like
Yeah.
constant crowd noise because like to ask a fan to cheer, 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 stop for 30 seconds, you can't say a single thing, cheer, 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 cheer. Like it's not gonna happen and it messes with people because it gets to the point where like fans under now realize for this 30 seconds I can't say a single thing, but if I do say something it could mess them up and it could make us win because I said something. And so that's when you get the people that are like, oh, I'm going to interject with something crazy, mess up this
Mhm.
person's focus, and it could help the American or European team.
Yeah, and like to that point, there's also those couple of seconds right after they hit where it's still silent from everyone being silent before. So like if you're a drunk idiot, 24-year-old, you're like, okay, well, I can't say anything during a swing, but now after he hits it immediately, when the cameras are there and the microphones are there and everyone's still quiet, I'm gonna scream something crazy and it's gonna get a reaction out of Rory and I'm gonna get to film it and post it somewhere and like it might mess him up. So it's like now we I don't know, like constant crowd noise, it just I feel like takes care of it. And like I don't know if people would even do that at a golf tournament, you know what I'm saying? But it's like I think that because it's so quiet at these events and these people are so charged and like cheering for their team, sometimes, just simply rooting against the other team, you hear it and it like it's so much more apparent because everyone else in the crowd is like murmuring, like no one's quiet, but it's a low growl instead of like, constant crowd noise. And you pick up on it. Like it's easy to point those people out.
It's funny the shot that you're talking about where Rory stuck it to 2 feet after telling someone to shut the F up. Like someone posted it on TikTok what he said. All he said was that bunker's looking mighty nice, Rory. Like
Yeah, like
I was like, that's not
if
even
that's
anything
actually what he
bad.
said, that's
No, that is what
crazy.
he said.
Yeah,
I'll
like
send you the
that's
video.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
All he said was that he goes, that bunker's looking mighty nice, Rory. And Rory turns to him and goes, shut the F up, and then sticks it to 2 feet.
Yeah, like that's crazy.
And I was
That's
like,
crazy.
that's not bad. Like that, and
No.
it's not like he was in the process of his backswing. He was setting up for the ball. Like it's not
Yeah.
like he was sitting there swinging and he said it. He was literally approaching the ball. He said it, and then he told him shut the F up, and then hit it to 2 feet.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And like the lines are so blurred, right? Like it's just so confusing on what is correct and what isn't correct. And like, I mean, imagine you're just like a sports fan and you got tickets to the Ryder Cup and you're like pumped to go watch it. And then you get there and you've never watched golf before, and they're like, okay, well, we want you to cheer super loud, but then for 30 seconds, we want you to be really, really, really quiet. And then after that, for another 30 seconds, you be super loud again and like keep doing that for the entire day. I'd be like, this is the most confusing sport I've ever watched in my entire life. Like, it makes no sense.
I think my favorite thing that the American crowd did was when they were on the greens and they started counting.
Yeah.
I was like, that's amazing. And then Rory got upset because they were counting, and I was like, but they're not doing anything. They're just counting. Like it's
Yeah.
like I was like, but that's genius because they're like, oh my God, these people are gonna sit here and count this whole time while I'm trying
Yeah.
to figure out, and it messes me up. But like that's what it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like that's the type of stuff it should be.
Well, and like so one last thing was the MC that got fired, right?
Yeah.
I was there on Friday afternoon when they were like about to come back around and tee off for the second time. And she got out there and she was like doing that whole like MC spiel where she's like trying to get people fired up. Oh my gosh, your dog in the background
Yeah.
made me laugh. Um, and she literally got booed. Like I booed her, I think, I
She
was like,
was doing dumb
get out of
chants.
here. Like, we don't want this. We're not Europeans. We don't want to do a Scotty Scheffler, we will rock you chant. We just want to scream. Like
Yeah.
Americans just want to be loud and obnoxious. And like that's who we are, right? And so it's like you have this woman who's like trying to create this like faux rage that like doesn't exist. It's like, and then she's like screaming at the crowd to say F you, Rory, and she had to step down, which is super funny. I think that's hilarious. But it's like the whole time they're trying to create this like environment that Americans just like don't want, and at least New Yorkers didn't want. Maybe somewhere else in the country they would do chants or whatever at the first tee. Like, but there it was so obvious they just wanted to be like raw, like in your face, kind of loud. They were ready to go. They didn't need to be pumped up. They just needed better play and a little momentum. Like, and we just never got it.
Well, it's like going to an Alabama football game, and you know how they have the MC before the game that does like the Alabama chants,
Yeah, yeah.
like those are fine, but like imagine doing that on like a third down play,
Yeah, no,
right?
everyone would be like, I want to watch the game.
And I just want to yell. Like I
Yeah,
don't want to sit here and have to think about what I'm saying and who's saying what and all of these things. Like I
yeah,
think that for Americans, they need to stop trying to make it Europe. They need to stop trying to be Europe.
yeah,
Embrace being the obnoxious, loud, rambunctious Americans, but do it respectfully, obviously. But
yeah.
like, don't try to be Europeans and come up with fancy chants and all of these things because it's just like no one wants that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Americans think
and
that's
like,
dumb.
well, and I'll say too, like, if you want it to be crazy, right? Then this is the model that you used last week, and it crosses the line, and people's feelings get hurt, and like it's this big like mess, and we have to talk about it, and that's fine. Like we can do that again. We can certainly do that again. Or next time the security gets really intense, and like you figure out who the bad apples are, and you incentivize like being super loud and super obnoxious, but not crossing the line, right? Because people were like, oh, Rory got this person kicked out or Shane got this person kicked out. And like, I don't think they were just kicking you out to kick you out. Like, that might have happened here or there, but for the most part, like you had to say something bad enough to where someone else in the crowd was willing to be like, hey, he said it. Like he was the one, kick him out. So like I think that's where it goes back to like the lines are so blurred that we have to figure out like what is acceptable behavior and what isn't acceptable behavior. Because
I
right
agree.
now I genuinely like I don't know what accept like what you said about what he said to Rory, like that sounds so in bounds.
Like that sounds like something that I would hear on a regular PGA tournament.
Yeah, like
Like
that's
when
something I
you're
would say to my buddy when we're like playing golf together,
yeah. I mean,
you
he
know?
obviously yelled it, but it's that's not I saw that. Like obviously there's some that have said like the F word, F slur and things like that and like that's out of bounds. Like that's something that you don't do. Even F you Rory, like that is something that I personally be like, okay, that's in bounds. Like
Yeah,
I don't think that like that's that big of a deal. I think that that's just you need to get tougher skin. The people are obviously trying to get you out of sync. um, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Bringing stuff in about his wife and his
crazy.
kids,
That's
don't do
crazy.
that. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of where I draw the line when it gets personal. But like when you're trying to get in a guy's head, like you're not just gonna sit there and just say, "Yay, go team! Yay, go!" Especially
Yeah.
when you're down so much. Like I don't know.
I think
I,
it was just kind of the perfect storm. Like we were losing by a lot. Everyone had spent so much money to be there. Like Europe wasn't going away. Rory was kind of being obnoxious. Shane was kind of being obnoxious.
Shane
Like,
was electric, by the way.
yeah, and like I say obnoxious in like a very respectful like way. It's not like, oh, I hate those guys. Like I cheer for Shane Lowry on the regular. But this week I'm like, God, I wish I could just punch this guy in the face. Like he's so good and he's like so perfect at celebrating. Like it's driving me nuts how good he is at what he's doing right now. And I think that's kind of like the feeling that everybody got. It wasn't like, oh, F you, Rory. Like, I hope you die. It's like, dude, F you, Rory. Like, stop playing so freaking good and kicking our butt. Like, it's hard to watch as an American fan. And so, like, I think the people that had the attitude of like, F you, Rory, and I don't respect you, that's the people that like you have to watch out for. Cause I think it's totally imbalanced to heckle Rory. And I think a lot of the people that did heckle Rory would still cheer for him on any given Sunday during the regular season of the PGA Tour.
I will say I was a big Rory fan, and this is probably the last we'll talk about this just because we've kind of talked about it a lot. I was a big Rory fan, and I respect Rory a lot, but after his press conference, after them winning, and then his actions not matching up with what he was saying, and basically crying wolf about oh, fans were being disrespectful, but at the same time, I'm also being disrespectful to fans. I'm being disrespectful to the opponent that I just played with, like what he did with Bryson, and not having thick enough skin. It's like one of those guys where they get upset because you tell like they something happens to them that's bad, but then at the same time they'll go and do something bad to someone else and expect no consequences. It's like that's where I lose respect for people where you're no longer following with what you're saying. You're being
Mm-hmm.
disrespectful to people, but you don't want people to be disrespectful to you. And it doesn't make sense to me. And so from
Yeah.
that point of view, I lost a lot of respect for Rory solely
Yeah.
because of that.
Well, and like, so, like you said, last thing I promise, but like, the only reason I say that about Rory too is like, in a way, I think he kind of knows what he's doing because he's been so good at it, right? Like, he was forced to be the PGA Tour's poster boy. Like, I don't think he really wanted to like be the guy beating the drum against Liv. Like I mean, those are his friends, like however you want to spin it. Like he spends most of his time with half of those guys, like it's, it was probably tough on him and he didn't want to have to speak about that all the time. So just in that same way, like I think he knows he has to be the Ryder Cup's poster boy, but like that isn't necessarily like what he wants. And he might want that. I'm not speaking for him, but it's like when he constantly is the one having to answer all of the big, meaningful questions for a group of people and he has to speak for everyone, like I think that's usually kind of a villain arc, like someone takes your words the wrong way and spins them. And like, I understand the gestures this week and like putting the European flag over DeChambeau. Like, I thought that was completely like, why are you doing this? Like, you just dominated this man for 4 days. Like, just go celebrate, dude. Like, it's weird. But I kind of get like where he's coming from. He's probably tired and like it's I mean, that would be a lot of weight to bear constantly on your back. So I get
Yeah,
it. I get what you're saying. I get what you're
but why
saying.
do it to DeChambeau? Why
That's
not
what
do it
I'm saying
over?
is like that I thought was super weird. Like I didn't get that. And I think it's because like I mean Bryson said some stuff about Rory like earlier in the week. And like I think Rory just really like he might just take it to heart and like it becomes personal to him. Whereas like I think Bryson was kind of like, hey, I'm saying this and I kind of mean it, but half of it's for my YouTube clicks.
Yeah.
Like I don't actually hate you, Rory.
No, and I don't think any of those guys hate each other. Like, the perfect example of what I would want someone to be in a Ryder Cup is Shane Lowry,
Yeah,
right? Where
yeah,
he's not a guy like Shane didn't complain that much. He was very quiet when he went to the press conferences, but when he's on the course, he's giving it back to the fans just as much. He's doing just as well as everyone. He's one of the best players out there. And you can say whatever you want. You can call him fat. You can call him whatever. But when he makes a putt or he hits a good shot, he's gonna let you know he hit a good shot. And I think that that's what the Ryder Cup should be, is
yeah.
where it's a give and take for the fans and the players to because when they do well, like the American team celebrates and the American
Hmm.
team gives it to the fans and encourages the fans, and that's not an issue. But when the Europeans do it, then it's an issue. And
Yeah.
so like it just I don't know. We're talking a lot about the same stuff.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We're doing circles, but it was fun. I'm glad we got to. I feel like that was like a rant sesh that we both got to
Yeah.
get off our chest. So that's good.
I intentionally didn't text you like much this weekend about my thoughts because I was like, I have to put this on the podcast and this is gonna be like a whole thing. But um other than that, like what you have a couple tournaments you're in. What do you have going on outside of not this weekend, but like coming up in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so not much. I'm playing a mini tour event up in Ocala right now. So just doing that till Thursday, and then I actually have JP Cave coming down next weekend. We're playing the member guest at Lake Nona, so we got that on the schedule, and then the week following is first stage of Q School. So for Corn Ferry Tour, so just getting ready for that. I'll figure out my second stage location for DP World Tour Q School on October 13th. So like I think that's like a week and a half from now. So we'll probably talk about that when that comes out. But yeah, right now just working on the game, trying to figure stuff out. Took a couple days off after Sweden with the Ryder Cup and stuff. Just felt like I needed a little break and came back yesterday. So starting to get all the feels back and feel like the game's trending in a good direction. So hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, get some status somewhere, and then we can just take the show on the road.
Yeah, take it on the road. Other than that, college fall seasons in action. I don't think we talked about it. The Alabama team won their first event, the Folds of Honor. I forget what they did last weekend. They're in sixth right now. I don't think that for their current tournament. I don't think that they're. I think that's the last round. Um, how quickly we've been droning for about an hour and a half, or about an hour. Um, how's the fall season compared to the spring season for collegiate golf?
It's so wildly different that it's insane. Like the fall is really kind of your like fall camp and or spring camp, I guess, in football, where it's like the reps matter and you're taking it very seriously, but it's like you don't know who's really what playing what position yet, and like you're kind of still trying to get things set. We always, I felt like by the third event in the fall, kind of had a good idea of what we were going to look like moving forward as a team. But the first two events, we always took five guys playing on the team, which is normal. But then we would take like one or two individuals usually to the fall events and see what they could do. Because I mean, playing qualifying and playing tournaments are totally different. So you figure out what you have on the roster I think that's kind of what Bama's done so far. I've kept up with them at Folds of Honor and at Olympia Fields, but I haven't looked this week. Um, but I mean, they've got a pretty deep team. They had a transfer come in from UCLA that's really good. Jonathan Grizz, who's up there in PGA Tour U, returned as a senior.
15th.
So yeah, yeah, so that's great. Yeah, I mean, they still have Coach Sewell and they got Forrest at assistant, so I trust both of those guys. And the fall is wildly different. It's just not as serious, and there's a lot of rotation movement in and out. But by the first event of spring, if you're not ready to go, then there's trouble.
Have you seen, so I was looking at the PGA Tour U. Have you ever seen a team that has four guys on the PGA Tour U? Because Ole Miss does this year.
Florida did my senior year, I believe. I know they had, I think, three at least. I think they might have had four, but I mean, it's usually those SEC teams, if I'm being honest, like Texas, Florida, Alabama, Georgia. That might fire some people up, but I think it's just the schedule that they play, and you're always playing against hard competition. So your ranking just automatically gets higher. And um, yeah, no, that's crazy. I mean, Ole Miss is good. I think everyone in the SEC this year is good, right? Like
Yeah.
Florida's going to be great. Alabama's good. Ole Miss is obviously good. Auburn's good again. Oklahoma's a great golf program. Texas is a great golf program. Arkansas has Lil John Daly. They've been playing good.
Vandy.
Um, Vandy, always good. I don't know how South Carolina is this year. Georgia, I think, is pretty good. Tennessee, Kentucky actually. So Kentucky hired Gator Todd like 2 years ago, and Gator played at Alabama and then was an assistant at Vanderbilt. And just in like the year and a half that Gator's been there, they've like really kind of started to turn it around. And I'm like very excited to keep up with Gator and Kentucky because like I know this is an Alabama podcast, but I'm from Kentucky and I
That's
think
your
it's
original team, right?
yeah, yeah. I
Growing
was a
up.
big Kentucky fan, and like there is a yearning for golf there. So I think if they could get the golf program back, they could do a really good job up there. And
There's
Gator
also
is great.
there's also good golf in Kentucky. A lot of really
Yeah,
good
it's
golf in
very
Kentucky.
underrated,
Yeah.
and like we've had good players. So the talent's there. We just got to keep them there,
Yep. Well, or go to Alabama. I
or go to
prefer
Alabama.
because that seems to the Kentucky to Alabama pipeline seems to
I
be
would
doing
rather
pretty
them go to
well.
Alabama. I would rather them
Yeah.
go to Alabama.
All right, Cannon. Well, anything else? I think we talked a long enough about the Ryder Cup and just kind of our experience and thoughts on that.
No, that was fun. The last thing is I did get a hat for a giveaway. So
Oh yeah.
if you want to figure out what you want to do for the giveaway, we'll post it on the Instagram.
Yeah,
And
well, do you want to do it? Would you rather do an Twitter or Instagram? I know we're talking about this like live on the podcast, but
yeah, no, I don't know. Probably Instagram, if I'm being
okay.
honest. I think I have more
So
people on Instagram.
So for everyone that's listening, we are going to do a Instagram giveaway for the Ryder Cup hat that Cannon got while he was there. What that's going to look like is you will have to when we make the post, you'll have to follow the post or follow our Instagram account, like the Instagram post, and I guess put it on your story. I guess that's the way people share it. If you do those three things, you'll be entered into the giveaway to get the Ryder Cup hat. And when we record next week, we'll decide who the winner is based off of that. So be sure to tune into the podcast next week.
Perfect. Sounds great. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, all right. Anyway, this has been Golf Adjacent with Canon Claycomb, and we will talk again soon.
See ya. Thank you.